Yeah, ancient Mahari here. And what was I gonna do? Oh, there was something I had to do, but I don't know what it was. Oh, just a second here. So yeah, healing after BPD or even NPD relationships, self-focus, find and know yourself, and how important that really is. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about this first. Excuse me. Specific ways. I'm just going to talk about a few specific ways to know who you are. As many people lose themselves in these relationships. Oh boy. And some people, whoops, I got a little bit of a. I hope the audio's good. I don't know if anybody's here. If you could let me know that the audio's okay. That's important. Um, oh, by the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can find more of these live streams because I'm going to keep working to make them better, more educational, and then interactive, hopefully, after I give some information out that might be helpful. I hope the audio is okay because nobody's telling me right now. So, I forget what else I was saying. But anyway, yes, people lose themselves in these relationships, and a lot of people with codependency might believe they know themselves pretty well. Everybody's different. And then maybe not understand. Oh, good, you can hear me fine. Thank you so much. Um, and then people might not understand that they know themselves a little, like they don't know themselves quite as well as they thought they did, because some people with codependency, often when I'm working with clients, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, of course I know who I am," and etc. And but then the next thing they'll talk about is what they do, or work, or because a lot of people in pain, and especially after these relationships and with codependency, but a lot of people in this incredible emotional pain become human doings. Especially the codependents, partners, some of BPD, etc. And then you start losing yourself more and more. So, to the degree that some people know themselves or knew themselves, you might really be feeling lost of self right now. So, this is a quote: "To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom." And this famous quote is often attributed to Socrates. So, what do you exactly know when you quote, know yourself, unquote? Well, there's some elements of self knowledge that can help you understand your own identity. As you live your daily life, you can look for clues to these important building blocks of self. And this is really important for people in terms of mindfulness and all kinds of other techniques to stop the focus on the cluster B and that type of thing. So the first thing I would just say though is, people might still be thinking, why is it important to know myself, and don't I know myself, and what am I talking about? Well, the benefits of self knowledge and really knowing yourself, or coming to know yourself again and in a healthier, more holistic way, more encompassed way, might sound really obvious, but hey, healing from the relationship, being able to heal codependency, both, and also what that means in terms of knowing yourself. Well, you have to become aware of a lot of things that are in your subconscious as to what's not only just happened to you, but where did the codependency begin in your childhood? What's happening with your inner child? What do family of origin work that I do with clients is really important. And then self differentiation. Because do you know that people can carry interjected narratives, the inner critic inside, injunctions, family roles, etc. People can carry them for years and years and years after a relationship with cluster B, because this triggers everything in people that might otherwise not be aware of what's going on, and you get in a world of hurt. And so people can be enacting rather subconsciously and not obviously to many people their original family roles or family role well into adulthood, if not for a lifetime. And that's why it's important to know who you are. Do the family of origin work, inner child healing, and the self differentiation work to break free. You got to heal from the relationship. You want to heal from codependency. You want to find and know yourself. And you want to break free from some role and the negative core beliefs that go with that from your family of origin. So knowing yourself, of course, can also create less inner conflict, right? So that helps in this process right after someone with cluster B, because, or cluster B parent, whatever the case might be, because emotional dissonance and cognitive dissonance are all about internal conflict, like massive internal conflict. So you lessen in inner conflict. And when your outside actions are in accordance with your inside feelings and values, that's what diminishes the conflict and helps with cognitive and emotional dissonance in healing after somebody with BPD or a narcissist, or some people, not always significant other relationship. Maybe it was a parent in your life, or both for a lot of people. You'll be able to make clearer decisions. You'll have more clarity when you know yourself better. You're able to make better choices and realize you have way more choices than you might have even realized about everything. Small decisions or bigger decisions. Autonomy and self control. When you know yourself, you understand what motivates you to resist not only sort of bad habits, but to get out of negative core beliefs, to implement, identify, implement, and then be able to assert your boundaries, building healthier ego boundaries in the process of recovery. And you'll have the insight to know which values and goals are really important to you. And you might know some of that now, but maybe a lot of people lose it after being with a cluster B. You'll be able to have more tolerance and understanding of others because you'll learn more tolerance and understanding and self-acceptance of yourself and your wounded self from the cluster B, and then also your wounded inner child. And your awareness of your own foibles, so to speak, and or wounds and struggles can help you empathize firstly more with yourself, because most people don't need to empathize more with others, because most people with codependency do that just a little bit too much. And so the building blocks of self. Okay, well, values, right? It's like I've talked about moral philosophy and knowing who you are. What are your values? And a lot of people know with codependency might not have lost all those, but values, interests, passions, hobbies, things that you might find anew or re-explore, things that might really help you in learning to at first distract and get your mind off the cluster B as well, but going forward in your life. And temperament, it describes your inborn preferences. Doesn't mean we're stuck with those, though. So, do you restore your energy from being alone because you're introverted, or from being with people because you're extroverted? It's important to know this about yourself. Are you somebody that likes to plan, or are you more like go with the flow, spontaneous type person? And people coming out of relationships with cluster Bs might be so, stressed and everything and in too much pain to even know if you like you might have to plan every step out at first. And even if you were a go with the flow type of person, maybe you can't get back to being that you right now. And so, do you prefer big ideas? Do you make decisions more on the basis of feelings or thoughts and facts? Do you know this about yourself right now? Knowing the answer to temperament questions like these could help you gravitate towards situations um, that just will really be more positive and healthy for you. And so, also, around the clock activities, which really refers to knowing yourself. So your biorhythms, right? Are you a morning person or are you a night person? For example, what time of the day does your energy peak? If in fact you have any right now. Some people don't have a lot of energy, really suffering after cluster B. It depends. And if you schedule your activities when you're at your best, are you respecting your innate biology? So that's something that maybe people don't think about in terms of knowing self. But and your life mission, meaningfulness, or meaningful goals. What brings meaning into your life? So, what have been the most meaningful events of your life? And I would say a lot of people might not realize just yet, but if you're the adult child of a person with BPD or NPD or any mixture thereof, etc., or you've been in a relationship, or you've been in a relationship with somebody BPD or a narcissist, as a partner, then you know these are painful, but later can, as you get through and start in your healing and recovery journey, they will become meaningful events in your life. Not that you're not going to remember them overly fondly, but they are crises that are immense growth opportunities. So maybe I don't know, boring everybody, but I think this information is important. Maybe somebody will listen back. People seem to be bailing. Anyway, so it's really interesting to ask yourself a question, what have been the most meaningful events of your life? And you may discover the clues to your hidden identity or, reclaiming more of yourself and your identity again. And, what are your strengths, right? Abilities, skills, talents. What are your character strengths? Like loyalty, respect for others, love of learning, emotional intelligence, wanting to build emotional intelligence, fairness, and things of that nature. So knowing your strengths is one of the foundations of self-confidence. We can include in there self-esteem and self-worth also. Becoming a person who, quote, takes in the good, listening, well, not listening for, but, being able to accept a compliment because you go through this process to know yourself, to be able to be your own best friend. So you can really take in a compliment. And for a lot of people after, these relationships and when you feel broken and stressed and so hurt, a lot of people don't have self-worth left. And it's really important to build this back. And so to notice skills that would be clues to your strengths. And so being true to you. So that's really important too. And it's about becoming and being your own best friend. And so for a lot of people, being yourself sounds easier than it really actually is. Because when you've been with, if you've got, for people with codependency that starts in childhood, could you really be yourself with your mom and your dad, or either, or one or the other? Because often one of the injunctions that is an unspoken family rule is don't be yourself, especially if you have a borderline or narcissistic parent. And then lots of people who do have a cluster B parent or emotionally unavailable parent, or whatever, just something's off with a parent and it affects you. That's something happens where codependency is developed from childhood. This is why so many people with codependency with something in childhood end up in cluster B relationships in adulthood. And as I've said before, adult man is attracted to adult female and vice versa, or female to female, male to male, for the reasons that you are. But the wounded inner child is like a Geiger counter for that person. It looks like in your subconscious. That person is so familiar. Your inner child needs your attention as seeking reparation. So the attraction to the cluster B, even though you don't know what's about to happen to these people the first time, is on the adult level of what attraction and all that's about. But it's also subconsciously happening inside your wounded inner child. For so many people, these things really connect. And so it's really important to know that. This is a time in your life when you would have thought you were acting on self-knowledge when you got into the relationship, or as you were growing up with a cluster B parent, or whatever the case was. But you might not have really been able to fully get to know yourself, especially if there was one of those family rules that said, don't be you. I mean, didn't say out loud, but implied it. So this leaves people with rejection, abandonment, shame wounds, and all kinds of things. And the other thing I was just going to say a little bit about here just makes sense after saying it, healing after BPD relationships, NPD, and or if you're the adult child and you had a parent like that, codependency, which can lead people into these relationships on a subconscious level, obviously. Well, self-focus, and so to know yourself, right? Well, okay, so I'm talking about knowing yourself a little bit here. So I think it's only makes sense to talk a little bit about what is the self, right? So contentious and defined differently in different ways. But just a little bit about the self. The self is one's own experience, right? The self is an individual person as the object of its own reflective consciousness. Remember that word object, because when we're born, mother is the first object, right? Object other. And as Bradshaw said, mother's face is the world to the infant. The just unbelievably crucial nature of the early stages of childhood development for those with BPD that gets severely interrupted, for those with NPD gets even more severely interrupted, for those with codependency it gets not interrupted in that split arrested emotional development way, but you don't really get to know yourself because I think it was Masterson who best explained this through object relations theory that we have to be a whole self object, okay? Because if you think about, well, people with BPD I'm often talking about, they relate to object other, parent representation through you. So they're not even seeing you as object other. And each one of us has as a self to be the person as the object of its own reflective consciousness. And what people want to do in this healing and recovery journey from cluster B relationships and codependency, you want to become that whole part object for yourself. You want to integrate, you want to heal that wounded inner child, do the family of origin work, and self differentiate. And since the self is a reference by a subject to the same subject, this reference is subjective. The sense of having a self or selfhood shouldn't be confused, however, with subjectivity itself. So ostensibly, this sense is directed outward from the subject to refer inward back to itself or to self. So, yeah, an example, of a quote psychiatric condition, Axis 1 dissociative disorders would be sameness may be broken. So depersonalization, of course, BPD is an example too, but depersonalization and derealization, which together form a thing called a dissociative something disorder. I forget what they call it. The first person perspective distinguishing selfhood from personal identity. So identity is literally sameness and may involve categorization and labeling. Selfhood implies a first person perspective and suggests potential uniqueness. So conversely, we use person as third person reference. Personal identity can be impaired in, well, that, no, sorry, that's just not, no, my notes there fail me because that shouldn't be there. Um, so this subjective experience is central to selfhood. The privacy of this experience is only one of many in the philosophy of self and the study of consciousness. And in neuroscience, two areas of the brain that are important in retrieving self knowledge are the medial prefrontal cortex, the medial posterior parietal cortex. I hope I pronounce these things right. The posterior cingulate cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, and medial prefrontal cortex are thought to combine to provide humans with the ability to self reflect. The insular cortex is also thought to be involved in the process of self reference. I'm always talking about people with BP don't have self reference, they can't have other reference, and no self cohesion, that kind of thing. And then just a little bit on from a psychology perspective. The psychology of self is a study of either the cognitive and affective representation of one's own identity or the subjective experience, which is being self. The earliest formulation of the self in modern psychology forms a distinction between the self as I, the subjective knower, and the self as me, the subject that is known. And that's the goal, right? To really have that in a very holistic, what's the word I'm looking for? Integrated to the max kind of way of knowing self. So, current views of the self in psychology position the self as playing an integral part in human motivation, cognition, affect, and identity, but social identity as well. So that would be relational identity. And self, following from John Locke, has been as a product of episodic memory, but research upon, oh, never mind that. Again, I have too many notes here. Because we don't want to talk about cognitive amnesia here. Um, Although I guess a sort of form of cognitive amnesia can happen when you have been that wounded by a cluster B, because loss of self would be something rather that would fit within that category. Must be why it's in my little notes here. Um, so yeah, I think that, like, there's the self, as I've just talked about, and then there's what psychology and psychiatry would say is a disordered self. And I'm not really going to get into that here because that isn't the focus of this video. And I think you've all experienced somebody with a disordered self at some point in time. But it's interesting that what the Freudian tradition has subjectively called, quote, sense of self, unquote, is for Jungian analytic psychology, where one's identity is lodged in the persona or ego and is subject to change in maturation. And I would just add, quote, adulting, unquote, to that, a sort of like newish type term. And Carl Jung distinguished, quote, the self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of this totality. The self in Jungian psychology is, quote, the archetype of wholeness and the regulating center of the psyche, a transpersonal power that transcends the ego. So that's speaking to spirit and soul in my mind as well. And as a Jungian archetype, it cannot be seen directly, but by outgoing, individuating maturation and analytic observation can be experienced objectively by its cohesive wholeness making factor. Again, I've spoken about how people with BP lack self cohesion and whatnot. So anyway, that's just what I had to summarize in the beginning here. But knowing oneself is so crucial. And people will go, well, what do you mean? Because I know who I am. But you'd be surprised how compromised that gets when, from childhood, maybe, with why you have codependency, if you do. And also when in relating to cluster Bs who are have a what was it, like a disordered self, right? I mean, so to speak. So I'm just going to check out the comments now. Where was I here? Da, da, da. Well, hey to everybody who's here, by the way. Roller Girl, Gemini Girl, Eddie, Brob, Chu Bang Boon. That's always challenging. L, Clover, Hey Ted, Deb. I'm looking at this at Victor. Yeah, I don't know if I named everybody there, but let's see what people have been talking about here. Oh well, we don't want to. Okay, yeah, Al. Well, you know what? Don't worry about that, Al. Just don't worry about that. Thumbs up would be appreciated for those of you that resonate with me, and you are working on knowing yourself. You're working on healing. You're interested in healing and moving forward and finding your way forward, and you're adults and adulting further, unlike what Elle was referring to there. Um, uh, well, Clover, I don't know, because if you want to get away from the narc and you're going to go closer in the direction of the narc, um, you know, you're going to need therapy to get out of that dilemma, I think. Um, And Elle asked, what's the hardest thing going no contact? What do you think about slow emotional detachment instead of going cold turkey? Well, I think slow emotional attachment drags out the pain of it, really. and it allows for denial to creep in, and it will take away from all of the things that in the process of healing and recovery people need to really be mindful about and starting to enact for themselves, and the shift of focus and all those very difficult things to do. So really cold turkey is the best way to do it, but cold turkey maybe working with someone and strategizing for the no contact, cold turkey no contact, by ways that you can cope with it might be helpful. And how are you, Ted? Oh, I'm glad you appreciate the info, Deb. Thank you. Victor, it's crazy. I thought I was over this last time I came to your. Oh, I thought I was over this last time I came to your live stream. Then all of a sudden, I have a bad depression and I miss her. I'm sorry to hear that. Even though she left me for someone else, married with a kid. Shake my head. Well, there just might be a little bit more grief there. That and something might have reminded you of her, and then you sort of went back into a little bit of a spiral there. But don't be too hard on yourself, because when that happens, I think you know from past experience, because you thought you were over it last time you were at a live stream, in a live stream. So again, you will move forward, but maybe see if you're aware of what put her back on your mind. Gemini girl, cold turkey is how I did it. And I reached a pain threshold, made me not care about him anymore. I went numb. Well, and I'm sorry to hear that you went through that, but sometimes, that going numb, which is probably a freeze response to all the adverse experience and the what goes on in those relationships, can be a helpful thing, because it can thrust you into the action as you're describing. Um, and Victor said, I'm codependent. I feel like I can't unlove her. I don't know what she is, but I think she's BPD. Well, and I think the most important part of your statement there, Victor, to explore is when you said you're codependent, that you feel like you can't unlove her. I haven't heard it put that way before. That's very interesting, intriguing, and I mean, a very self-aware way to put it. And I guess, maybe you could just do some journaling for yourself and ask yourself, what do you actually mean by you feel like you can't unlove her? Because like it would be important to explore, what does that feel like? What are you feeling? And then when you discover what are you feeling when you feel like you can't unlove her, what are you actually thinking? Because this is where people have to do reparative work, because with every feeling that we have, and people aren't always aware of what they're feeling because they've been stressed out and you're in agony after these relationships and cold turkey no contact and things of that nature. So but thoughts drive our feelings, and sometimes when feelings are really in the forefront, in the lead, because you're in so much pain, people aren't aware of what the thoughts are that are driving the feelings. Just looking down here. Well, Victor, that's not true, right? That was her projecting and her just lying, because so many people with BPD have to make the other person feel like it's all their fault and feel so bad. And that's not really the truth of the matter. Yeah, she was blaming you for everything that was her responsibility. I mean, wow. Ted says cold turkey is the way. It is, and it's not easy. Trust the process and remember it's an addiction. Yes. And one day the fog will lift and you will see things clearly. When it happens, you will think, WTF, what was I thinking? And the thing about that is, too, the cold turkey nature of no contact is so important, because until and unless you do that and get there, and then it's like I've given that analogy of the rickety boat, right? You got to climb in the rickety boat and start rowing away from the shore of the cluster B to focus on the cluster B. You got to focus on yourself more. People really can't do that until they've gone no contact. And that's blocked the person in every which way. not doing reverse Hoovers or stealth reverse Hoovers on social media. And yes, it's like a cold turkey for the chemical soup reason that it is actually an addiction to this person as well because of the nature of the unhealthy bond. And so it's really important to realize this is going to be painful. But like I'm always saying, just to be a little motivational here, kites fly higher into the wind of adversity, and you need to make the most difficult choice, the one that feels impossible, that cold turkey, no contact one. And then, like, I work with people to help them strategize to do this. If you need, if you resonate with me and you think you might benefit from that, but the lens after no contact is so becomes, even in the midst of pain and emotional cognitive dissonance and everything people are going through, that lens of clarity starts to open ever so slowly, and it can't happen before people go no contact. It just, you don't make progress. It'd be like an inch forward and boom, contact, and you go all the way back. And yeah, Ted says he promises because Ted went through this and Ted knows, right? Ted's on the other side now. And I'm really sorry to hear that, Victor, how she treated you. And you said basically her words made me believe she was someone else, but examining her actions, she's obviously not who I thought she was. Yes, and that's another big point of the pain of everything and the nature of the loss and the grief that accompanies, you know, going cold turkey, no contact, and then all the things that people are feeling. I mean, that's only a few I just mentioned. And Ted said to Victor, that what Victor was sharing sounds so familiar. Often people will say in live streams, yes, like Ted said, sounds like the same relationship. Um, Victor said she had a social media addiction. Has 56,000 followers on social media platform that she put in front of me before she left me. Well, and a lot of people with BPD, maybe they don't have that many followers. Um, what was her? I'm just kidding. But they're often, I have so many clients have told me, whether it's a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, but it seems to be largely with women. I'm not saying some men with BPD or whatever wouldn't be, but just they'll sit around for hours on Facebook or whatever their favorite social media is, and they don't do anything else. It's just like they're distracting themselves from themselves, which is really kind of self-absorbed, isn't it? And yet they don't have a self to be absorbed with. So there you go. Ted said same in his case with his ex, but oh, she only had 20,000 followers. Oh, wow. Hmm. Maybe see if there was social media when I had BPD, maybe I would. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Victor, yes, I'm thinking she had all cluster B characteristics, but would qualify for histrionic personality and narcissistic personality and BPD. Well, yeah, and that's not really all the cluster B characters. It's usually that's not the case. But of course, they took HPD out of the DSM-5, didn't they? But a lot of histrionic traits can exist in narcissists or people with BPD. So it doesn't mean that they have to have like three, um, well, I can't say co meaning to, anyways. So you know what I'm saying. And, well, and you said she had no conscience for her nearest and dearest, but acts like a social justice warrior. Oh no. Overcompensatory there, no doubt. Um, and it's hard to say if they have no conscience, but I hear you. Like that's what you definitely experienced, or what it was like for you on the other side of her. Uh, well, yeah, Victor said she said sorry, but obviously wasn't sorry. Just felt like she would say it or something. It's crazy having someone split on you like that. It's flipped my world upside down, mood wise. I'm always sad and feel traumatized by it all. I'm really sorry to hear that, but yes. And I think too that what was I gonna say there? Yeah, sometimes people are sorry with BPD or not so much BPD and PD comorbid, but being sorry if they are sorry or feeling something if they feel something about what they've done, whether they can express it or not, is not going to change their behavior anyway. So there are people out there with BPD that could say, they really could say they're sorry, they really could mean they're sorry, but it doesn't change behavior because what's driving the behavior they have to go to therapy to understand more about and they don't have an awareness about. So they might say, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and I'm like, "I'll never do that again," and and they could mean it, but they can't stop the behavior that the emotional dysregulation drives, cause it's primal, cause it's from way back, and it comes into the here and now, repetition compulsion, dissociatively, and if severe enough, in a triggered episode, it could be also with age regression accompanying it, and yeah, Ted, when people go no contact and then they're working in healing, it really takes active work in the healing, which you likely remember. But yes, it will pass, but people have to take it one step at a time. And Northern Pike, hey there, how are you? Gemini Girl, I'm having a hard time dating after this BPD and yes, that horrible treatment. Everyone seems so boring. Oh, I've heard that so many times. Yes, compared to my BPX, but I know he was unhealthy and never going back. Maybe I'm not ready to date yet. Well, it's interesting because that's something to really consider. But the other thing, well, actually, there is a sign of that because what you're describing, which I've heard from so many clients, and it really takes a lot of working through, is you are missing the intensity. People with BP are often, if nothing else, they are intense among other things. And so then the situation and the relationships and the chaos and the drama, very intense. And I've had so many people say, and when I've worked with them and over the years, and still have some clients in that space now, it's like, but I can't date somebody healthier, and I don't want to date another cluster B, but they're so boring. Healthy people are so boring. And so what that suggests, Gemini Girl, is that there is something still, whether it's a little bit of inner child woundedness or goes back to your past, it will connect somewhere. There's something still that you are a little bit, perhaps, for lack of a better way to put it, addicted to the intensity. And that might mean still a little bit not sure what to do without the chaos or the drama. And if anything like that resonates with you, that would mean there's a little more healing to do in a codependent sense, or just a little more healing to do so that you will be able to enjoy the peaceful calm of a healthier person and not experience it as boring because it's missing that driving intensity, which is one of the things that is actually really unhealthy about people cluster B. I mean, but people find that compelling because, again, there was likely intensity in childhood at some point, in some way or other. Bonbauer. I'll just shorten because you got a long name there. Just gone cold turkey. Exhausted. Oh, I'm sorry to hear you're exhausted, but good for you for going cold turkey. Oh, you got shingles during lockdown due to my ex. I'm so sorry to hear that because I hear that is really painful. You really need to start taking some really kind, nurturing care of yourself, let alone if you have, your wounded inner child to deal with as well. Um, Gemini girl, yes, the clarity lens is a great feeling after no contact. I agree. And Ted said to Gemini, tried this and I feel the same. Still, better to not date for a while. Yes, because I don't know how long it's been for you, Gemini girl, in your recovery, but I usually recommend to people 18 months to 2 years. And some people go, "What? Are you kidding me?" But it is really important because if people don't heal, excuse me, beyond, the part that does go back to most people's past in one way or another, then the likelihood, you're struggling with the boredom of healthier people. And for some people, they can end up back with a cluster B. Just give me 1 second here, because something about this. I'm reading the comments off the phone, and my phone has like no brightness on it. Like, what happened here? Just give me a second. Technology is not my friend. Oh, yeah. The phone totally turned down its brightness. I didn't touch it. Go figure. Never, Mom. Hey there. Hey, AJ. I'm just dropping in for a sec. Oh, you might not be here anymore. Sorry. But I'd like to know, is there any advice for people who are friends of borderlines? What are the signs? Sorry if it's off topic. Well, maybe I'll do a video on that, or I'll do something separate on that. Yeah, right now, because it would be to go a little far afield at the moment. Bonbauer, there really is grief. Oh yes, absolutely. And you said alcohol became a coping mechanism for them. And then they became, oh yes, sorry to hear that. Cold turkey had to be done. I do wish that BP was better understood. Well, as a disorder, or really a response to adverse childhood experience. I think understanding is growing. There's some really effective things coming with the ICD-11, which, instead of listening to the DSM. So psychiatry around the world outside of America and of course Canada, because we're infiltrated by American psychiatry. There's some things hopeful on the horizon, and no doubt that the American psychiatry is going to come up with its next DSM soon. It's going to be worse than the DSM-5, but the good news is the rest of the world is doing some pioneering, moving forward things, which matter to everyone. Because the thing about BPD being so misunderstood, so pathologized by American psychiatry, because I'm going to be more specific now, with the hegemony of Big Pharma and what they're doing to people, is it's important because the more people with BPD that could get into recovery, get into treatment, and get healed, the less people there would be out there not only hurting and in agony themselves, but then inflicting that upon other people. So it's really important that what BPD truly really is gets more understood, and more understood than ever before. And Spartan website, so you're very welcome. And then you said, I'm in a custody battle. I'm sorry to hear that. 9 years long. Oh my God. And it's worse than ever. I am so sorry to hear that. I hope you're taking good care of yourself, and, keeping yourself healthy, because wow, that's beyond stressful. And the finances of all that. I mean, it's stressful in every which way, and I'm sure all you care about the most is, the child or children that you're in the custody battle, to try to help keep them healthy. You're very welcome, Victor. You said you'll take my advice. Well, I hope you will, for your sake, right? It's not so much because I said it. No. Um, and I know what put her back in my headspace. I saw her new boyfriend outside my old house. I'm letting her keep the home. Ah, well, that would do it. Yes. So you have to realize when things like that happen, it can give you a bit of a setback, but to know, maybe work on some strategy to how to distract yourself, and how to maybe interrupt your, falling all the way back to where you get in the depression and everything that you were describing. So, and that might, as you keep moving forward, it might be that if you do fall back, and you're reminded again, like by a situation like that, then you won't go as far back. You won't go as deep into the depression over time. And Ted, I just hang around and listen to AJ's videos and live streams because your videos and live streams help me so much. Well, I'm glad they helped, Ted, and thank you. And I just like how much time and work you put in to help others. Truly a good person. Oh, thank you so much. It's very humbling and inspiring, Ted. Thank you. And kind. Hi there, Wheels. How are you doing? Victor, I feel like even though she betrayed me, smeared me, left me while very depressed at rock bottom, I still love her. It's so sad, man, you said. Makes me lose respect for myself. Well, yeah, and that would be really important right there is, you gotta allow yourself time. And if you're not working with somebody, it might help you to do that. And you know, yeah, you left you when you were very depressed at your rock bottom, and you still love her. Well, and maybe it would be helpful. I mean, if you're, if you could journal, because some people really hate it, but to journal and, read and or look up some videos about what love is and what love isn't, because it might help you to realize maybe what you felt was love, yes, but what you weren't getting back. And sometimes you're looking at all of these different moving pieces, and actually pieces of the situation can really help people. And yes, if you've lost respect for yourself, that's part of what you need to build back. But don't be too hard on yourself. And don't be hard on yourself because you're still feeling love for her, because there's maybe more grief, over time, and it takes time to let go of love, right? And it's love lost. And so it may be also involving a grieving process on that level as well. And that's why I'm stressing people need to know themselves and take the time to heal. And I'll just interject here, by the way, YouTube live streams can take inordinate amounts of time. I lost last night's totally in the upload. It just went poof. I think I did it last night or the night before. Last night. It just totally went poof. So right now I'm audio backing this one up, but it can take 14 to 16 to almost 2 days, hours to 2 days for these things to process right now. And the other thing is, I had another live stream from a couple days ago, or more than a couple days ago now, maybe a week ago, and the comments didn't show up for a week. So just bear with the reality of technology. I just wanted to insert that for people to know, because usually when I insert it, the thing processes faster and it all goes well. And there was something else I was going to say really quickly, but yes, I'm going to be doing a lot more live streams like this, where I'm going to introduce some information in the beginning. And then, if people have questions about what I talk about, that might be something to think about going forward. And also questions in general. And then I'm going to come to comments like this. So, and I'm going to try to watch time and that kind of thing. So, and then I might do the odd free live stream, right? Like no topic, but I'm trying to structure them so there's information in the beginning on a certain topic aspect, because there's all these aspects of healing. And I don't want to, I really want to help people out. And so, I'm going to be talking about lots of different things. And so tonight was the focus is know yourself. What is the self? And I'm not getting into how do you really do that, but I hope that that's helpful for people who might still really need to know more about that. And Chu Bing Boon said, AJ, did person with BPD, okay, do people with BPD, maybe you mean, have only a few friends because they can't bond or attach to people? Yes, often. And often they don't really have many friends or any friends because they're all different, right? And then that's where that quote, I think it's silly thing comes in, a favorite person. So, and just let me remind you while I'm talking here, mindfulness is a good thing to learn in any healing and recovery journey. Um, and Victor said it used to be different in past breakups. I've took heartbreak very well in my life until this time. Well, yes, and that has to do with the fact of no closure, right? So, mindfulness, compassion, self focus, compassion for yourself, starting to accept yourself. So, any mistakes you feel like you made, or like Victor's being hard on himself for still loving her, gaining clarity, all these lovely words that are floating by, awareness, but being nurturing and kind to yourself. And a lot of people will have difficulty with this because of with codependency, there's things left over from childhood and family of origin that many people will benefit from working out. So where was I here? Yeah, it's a no closure, and it's the nature of the unhealthy bond, Victor. Why when it's a cluster B breakup or break up a person with BPD or NPD, but that it's really different from other types of breakups for sure. And Spartan, the BPD side has convinced her not to trust her own reality. Well, it's interesting the way you put that, the BPD side versus what? Because, people with BPD aren't BPD, right? That's not their identity, but they don't have an identity. So the reality is the loss of herself and not having any self reference is why she can't trust her own reality because she doesn't exactly know what it is. I mean, reality outside, in other ways, like what day is it, what time is it, but her inner reality, she's not really consciously aware of what that is, other than maybe pain, too much emotion, and then the way that they project out the pain and things they don't know how to cope with and think that it's everybody else's fault, to try to escape what they're feeling. So, but there's no way for her to trust. I don't know about entirely reality, but she can't trust anyone else because there's no self from which to trust. And we have to first trust ourselves before we can trust anybody else. This is another conundrum for people with BPD. Lesson until they find the self in therapy and they get really far down the road and they engage in a treatment and they get effective psychodynamic treatment. Victor, it's been about a year and a half for me and it still feels painful. Well, and don't please try hard, Victor, not to judge that because it is different for everybody. And everybody has their own individual experience, their own individual pain, and everybody's going to heal in their own individual ways and times, with some similarities to the healing processes, but it takes people different amounts of time. And Gemini Girl, interesting response to the addiction to intensity resulting from intense childhood. Thank you, AJ, for your response. You're very welcome. Spartan example says she isn't talking to anyone or being coached, but I hear them talking in her ear. I'm I'm thousands deep in this, but I hear them talking in her ear. So does that mean that she is talking to someone, or does that mean that she's having auditory hallucinations? Because I'm sorry, I can't. But then you said you're $1,000, you're thousands deep in this, so I'm not sure. She says she isn't talking to anyone or being coached, but I hear them talking in her ear. Okay, you hear them talking in her ear, and maybe the thousands you're in deep in this, among other things, is so is she talking to someone then? But maybe it's not helping. Um, and poems is feelings of something very similar to homesickness a normal feeling for borderline, and what does it come from? It's like I'm longing for something, but I don't know what. Well, I'm not sure where you are, with having BPD, but I would say that's a longing for the self that you don't know. That's a longing for your lost self. And the good news is in therapy that the lost self in BPD to arrested emotional development by the age of 2 doesn't mean your self is gone. It's in the split off part. Did I almost just say part by mistake? Sorry. It's in the split off part, the fragmented child ego state. So, but it sounds like when you say, like a homesickness or some feeling for, like longing for something and you don't know what it is, but it's you that you're longing for. So if you're not in therapy, I hope you'll consider getting into therapy because, and not just DBT, it's good, but you need a different modality to be able to express and explore with somebody really experienced in this, how you can find and connect to your lost self. And I think that's a really descriptive way that you put that. And I'm really sorry to hear that you're feeling that because that is very painful. Spartan, my daughter asks for help now. She's, it's your battery, probably low. Try plugging in a phone for increased brightness. Oh, I'm not sure if you're, yeah. Anyway, no, my battery's fine on the phone. Sometimes the phones just Don't know if it's lighting or what, but if you're talking about my phone, I'm not sure because I'm a little confused here. But what happened with me was just sometimes they just, yeah, go up and down by themselves. Gemini girl, you're so right. I do tend to get back into another relationship with some kind of personality disorder. It's been a pattern. I'm learning I need to work on my codependent issues. This is all new to me. Oh, well, good. And I'm really glad that you're realizing this now because, I'm so sorry to hear you've been through not only, one painful, personality relationship with a personality disorder person, but more than one. And so, yeah, it would be really important to take a pause from dating and really, focus on you. And, of course, everybody doesn't resonate or want to work with me. Many people do, but not everybody. But the key thing would be to get into a process where you do look at family of origin issues and your wounded inner child and then the self differentiation work. It really changes people's lives. It helps you to get to know you maybe better than you ever have before, but certainly better than you do after losing yourself more and more to cluster Bs. Excuse me, Spartan. Now, after asking for help and being separated from me, they've got control of her. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. And when you say they, is it a therapist or who did she end up talking to? Not specifically, but like therapist or like, some crazy church or something. Not that all churches are crazy, but you know what I mean. But you're behind a few minutes, so I might reply late to AJ. That's fine. I'm probably behind more than a few minutes because I don't know actually. And Spartan said, should I walk away and let them have her or keep fighting? She's in the middle. Physically, she's safe with them. Well, I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about with them, who they are, okay? But yes, it would be in your best interest to walk away because you can't rescue her and can't save her. And sounds like you've done about all you can do toward that effort. And Gemini girl, Victor, don't be hard on yourself. It truly is like fighting an addiction. Yes. Um, Von Bauer Born, I do have to say thank you, AJ, as your videos have been vital information educating myself on this disorder. Well, I'm really glad, and that's what I'm here for. And you're very welcome. And thank you for letting me know that. I always appreciate um, the inspiration, motivation, it just lights my fire some more to keep going and get more done and hopefully be as helpful as I can be. Will said, I'm doing okay, AJ. I'm proud of myself because I was able to listen to my gut and avoid getting pulled into a situation with another cluster B recently. Excellent. Way to go, Wheels. I think this is the first time I've ever been able to do that. Well, excellent. I'm so happy for you. That's really a sign of the growth and the hard work you're doing. Paying off. And you're learning to take care of yourself. That's wonderful. Victor, it hurts that she left me and moved on like nothing. I think about her not really suffering a loss the way that I have. Yes, that can be very, very difficult as well. I can't even get in a new relationship yet. That makes me feel sad as well. You're very welcome, Spartan. And just know, Victor, that they move on, right? And no, they don't suffer the loss in the same way. They have an accruing stockpile of loss. That's what's happening for them. What's happened in childhood and accruing loss throughout all this that they're not aware of. But the thing you have to remember with that is that when they move on so quickly or they get in the next relationship, you know, she couldn't love you, Victor, like you loved her. And she did not attach to you either. And so it's that they don't know how to love and they don't attach. They go on to the next person who they're not going to love or attach to either. And so I would say try to be kind to yourself and reframe because it sounds like you're a little bit in the comparative narrative. Well, she's in a new relationship, but I can't do that yet, so I'm feeling sad. Victor, there's no don't put that kind of pressure on yourself, is what I would say. Give yourself permission. Say, I love myself and I am worthy of taking time for myself and healing myself. And I'm getting somewhere, and you're going to know so much more about yourself, and you're learning and you're growing. And she's just going in circles, if you need to keep a little bit of comparative narrative there. But it's a very healthy thing that you're not in a relationship yet. And she, very unhealthy that she is. So think of it that way also. And you said, I feel like even though I'm lonely and single now, she isn't, and it isn't fair. Well, again, it's a comparative narrative, right? And if you just sort of separate those two things, she's in another relationship because she can't love and she can't attach, and you're not because you're still grieving and needing to heal because you loved and you attached, which are great qualities about you, Victor. And you said, I didn't deserve to be cheated on. No, you didn't. And you said you were a good husband. I hear you. And I'm so sorry that there was that betrayal as well. Um, oh, her mother is coaching her during, you said, our phone calls. Well, how healthy is her mother? Because often, apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? Victor, I think about wanting her to suffer as well. Yes, this is very normal. People do go through this. And as long as you don't act on that, right? It's sort of like a fantasy. And I know it's wrong. Well, again, you're judging yourself, Victor. I would say to have a fantasy, wanting for her to suffer as well for a time in your healing process is very common. So normalize it for yourself because, um, like you said, you really don't want that for her. But that's coming out of your anger, which is likely still protecting you from more of your grief and pain. And so it's common. I don't like the word quote normal, but you're not alone with that, Victor. It's a stage of what you're going through. So try not to judge yourself about that. And you said it makes me, well, yes, because you feel ashamed of yourself. And yes, being honest with yourself is very important, but also learning not to judge yourself, right? That what you're feeling right now is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of the pain you're in right now. And you said maybe she's suffering in her own way, though. Well, yes, in a way that, well, she's suffering because they really are suffering, but she can't love or attach to anybody. And I would think that that's one definition of a heck of a lot of suffering in life. So she's on to the next relationship, but what does that really mean, right? Like it's just going to be another disaster, and somebody else is going to get hurt. Um, where was I here? And he said she's heavier now and doesn't look very healthy. Bags under her eyes, acne, and aging faster now. Well, those are consequences, right? Of she's running and trying to escape pain, and anything that's unaddressed in our lives that's really stressful and super painful, like what she has to deal with, but probably doesn't realize what it is, like she's escaping it while starting to take a physical toll. Just like people have to guard their own, but mental, psychological, and but physical health as well. Having been in relationships with these people, and then the stress of the pain of no contact in the recovery process. Really important to take really good care of yourself. So, sounds like she's unfortunately reaping the consequences of, she probably doesn't take very good care of herself either. And every time somebody with BPD, and especially untreated, goes to the next relationship or the next relationship, they're stressed to the nines by that, right? Because they're trying to move close to somebody, and we all know they're going to split the value and they won't be able to stay there. So they're in their own right. If they keep running from their pain and they don't get help, they're going to have physical consequences at some point. Because that stress has to go somewhere. And if it isn't released, then she doesn't get therapy. And you said, I wish I could help her. Well, yeah, but again, there's something to try to reframe, Wish I could help her, but you might be able to write out a little mantra for yourself. Wish I could help her, but I think I did that as much as I could, and it did not work. Um, and you said, I feel like I was her only stability in her life. Yes, but again, that's the codependent aspect of her seeking identity or stability and everything else through you. And you're only responsible for you. You can't live for somebody else too. And you said everything but you was chaos. Well, and that's unfortunately what she has to deal with. And she'll keep transferring that on, probably transferring it on to the new person. Sadly enough for her not getting help and the new person too. Wheels, you never know, to Victor. I'm sorry you're dealing with all this. Just do what you can for you. Yes. And Gemini Girl said to Victor, she will never truly be happy. No, not unless until she went through years and years of therapy. She's chasing something she will never find. That's very true. And then you said to Victor to focus on himself and things fall into place and that you wish him the best. Yes, it's great support. And I think it's really important. And it's also, I just want to say for everyone and for Victor, that many people, wherever people are on their journey after these relationship breakups and trying to heal and learn more about yourself, etc., it's very common for people to be really hard on themselves and really judgmental because that's kind of a window, Victor, for you into something that likely goes back to your childhood, but you, and of course being in a relationship with cluster B doesn't help either, but your internal critic, the narrative, where does that come from, and how can you start to reframe that narrative that is so harsh? It's you being harsh to yourself, maybe in the way that the ex was, maybe in the way that a parent of yours was. And so this is what's so important about, finding self and learning about self. And here's another thing just for people with codependency. I'm just going to be seeing if I can work with technology at all. But you know what's really a big thing? Look at this guy here, because you don't want to stay in denial. Don't want to stay in denial about how it feels, how you hurt, what's happening after this, the internal critic, the judgment you've taken on, the person with BPD's negative narrative of you. All of these things are part of people recovering and doing inner child healing work, family of origin work, getting to know yourself more again, and maybe even more than you knew yourself prior. So, trying to develop an attitude of nurturing and not denying that you know by allowing the internal critic narrative and or the ex's narrative or parent's narrative to be judging yourself so harshly, you're kind of in denial about the nurture that you deserve, the nurture that you need to learn how to give to yourself, maybe nurture you didn't get in your childhood. So each person has to find your way home to self. It's so important. I'm having fun with this little gadget thing here until I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Um, and Wheel said, "Yeah, AJ, 6 months to a year ago, I wouldn't have trusted my gut. See, find your way home to self there. Um, I would have seen the red flags, told myself I was crazy, and dealt with the manipulation until it got so bad I couldn't deal with it anymore." Yeah, well, you made a lot of progress in 6 months, Wheels. That's great. And it's hard work, and I know it's not without pain. But you see, when people can embrace the pain with radical acceptance and learn how to cope more effectively with the pain, it's so freeing and it's so healing. And Deb said, I'm wondering why my concern is the only one not responded to. Perhaps I did not send it properly and it isn't being seen. I'm sorry, Deb. If I missed something, I apologize because I don't think I saw it. I'm just scrolling back right now. Um, yeah, no, I don't mean to leave anybody out hang on a sec. No, the last thing I see that you said, Deb, was listening, appreciate the info at 10:41 p.m. So if you sent another message, something it didn't come through. So just know I'm not ignoring you or not responding to you. I don't think it's sent properly. So maybe try again. I'm really sorry that happened and that you ended up thinking that I just wasn't responding to you. Sorry that you felt that way. And Victor said, "Thanks, guys. I will overcome this." Yeah, you will, Victor. I've gotten in great shape and am a great dad. Way to go. That's excellent. I'm proud of parts of me, but I feel like I've got a ways to go. Well, yes, and that's realistic. And it's wonderful to hear you speaking positively. And it's really important that you are proud of parts of yourself and you're making progress. Got to remember to balance what's, still difficult or painful with the gains that you are making. That's wonderful. And it's really important to people reminding themselves of that, right? So, and getting to know yourself too. And I'm not just playing around with this thing here, but again, a big part of that is building up your emotional intelligence. And I'm not saying that people, with codependency, unlike cluster B, don't have any emotional intelligence. But in this nice little cool video here, all the words associated with emotional intelligence, like I don't know what it says, I can't see it from here, but self awareness and focus and balance and nurturing oneself and not continuing to abandon yourself for someone else, self-regulation, being aware of what you feel, really getting to know yourself to be your own best friend. That's another really important part of this healing journey. And Deb said, "Okay, thank you for checking. It was sent at 11:03. First time sending a message on here. So yeah, I got it wrong. Yeah, I'm sorry, don't know what happened, but there isn't anything from you at 11:03, or I definitely would have acknowledged that. I'm just looking back one more time. Um, but nope, no, I went past there. Yeah, it just didn't come through. I'm sorry about that, 'cause you and Gemini Girl are both purple, have a purple circle. So I was looking. Oh, it's a little bit different shades of purple I noticed there. Victor, I don't know. I think you're right, AJ. My grandma was neglectful and hit me. I'm so sorry to hear that. She took care of me while my mom worked. Then my ex before her had cheated on me as well. All that pain led to this one. Well, yes, and so you see there is something that connects back to your childhood there, Victor, and that's where, what happened to you in your childhood, and a lot of people think this sounds ridiculous, but it's been repressed in your subconscious. And that's why inner child healing work is really important because, if your grandmother was neglectful and depending, how things are with your mother as well, but that can be where the seeds of codependency comes. That can be an adverse experience for a child. And it's definitely not positive. And it's good to connect those dots as well. And Wheels, this is pretty wild. I know I've got a long way to go, but I never expected to be able to get myself together the way I've been able to so far. Well, it's great when you surprise yourself like that, isn't it, Wheels? I mean, I think you're doing a wonderful job. And hopefully that is confidence building, right? Because that's another thing about building up emotional intelligence skills. All the different moving pieces I'm always talking about recovery, which I won't repeat them all again, and the fact that when you make gains, when you grow, when you're learning, and yes, it's hard won because it's painful. But again, I just can't stress how much it's important to be with that mindfulness, mindful to the pain and doing what most people have been taught. Well, I was taught too, but I've learned in years past, but we're taught to avoid pain, or that's what we learn. Pain is bad. Good feelings are good and happiness is good. What I want is good, but what I don't want to feel or what's hard to feel, well, pain is bad. Well, it's not true. But if you look at it in a radically accepting, mindful way, the reality is that pain is pain and things that are pleasurable, but we don't have to judge them as good and bad. So it really does take, kind of resetting your mindset and your mind frame to really accept the pain that you are experiencing and embrace it. Because leaning in toward it and grieving and feeling it is an amazing way to be able to really process the pain. And nobody enjoys pain, but one of the greatest gifts in the world, pain is one of the best teachers we could ever find in life. And so nobody's like, well, I got to go find me some pain so I can learn some more. But it's really true. And so it really, in that degree of getting to know oneself better, it's really about unlearning how pain in childhood, we learn it's bad, and often we don't learn how to deal with it. And so it's bad, it's horrible, it's awful. And so radically accepting in a mindful way that you do hurt, that it's okay to feel that hurt, that it's okay to cry, um, and or journal about it, but it's real. And sometimes people can just feel the pain. You might not even cry, but just sitting with the pain and deep breathing, it also is going to pass and be released, by the embracing and acknowledging of it. And Victor said, maybe I judge myself harshly because I've always had high expectations for myself. Was an Army soldier, graduated college with a 3.7 GPA. I've had great jobs. Now I'm not working much and I'm healing. Well, yeah, and you know what? Those are wonderful accomplishments, Victor. But guess what? They don't define who you are. And so, in learning more about who you are, it's like you have maybe aligned a big part of who you are or who you know yourself to be with being that intelligent, you know, um, person who had great jobs and did well in your jobs, and an army soldier, a lot of accomplishment there. So you need to balance that now with building up I'm not saying you have none, but building your emotional intelligence higher, and making the shift, Victor, from being a human doing, which it sounds like you've done a lot very well, to just being with yourself as you're healing, as you want to know yourself better. And you said it doesn't feel right healing. Well, I need to try to get back out there and get a better job again simultaneously. Well, and again, there's a judgment statement in there. And it's based on the feeling, right? You're saying it doesn't feel right healing. But you need to give yourself permission that it not right or wrong, but that you are worthy of this healing and it matters. So it kind of sounds a little bit like, and there can be other considerations in your life, I'm sure, Victor, but it's a little bit like you want to get back to being a human doing, because it's a little bit hard to just be the human being with the healing. And you wouldn't be alone with that either, by the way. And you said, I wish I had more time to heal before. Well, yes, when you need money. That's why I said there's other considerations. But the thing is, so even when you are, get back to work, what you need to do then is budget healing time into each day, whether it's in the morning, and depending how much pain you have, it might be better to do it in the evening. Maybe you can set aside a couple hours, depending where you are in your journey, if you're journaling, to do some of that on the weekend. So healing can still continue even if one is working. Roller Girl said, sorry to Deb. Now seeing your messages here. You are now seeing the message here? Okay, wait, I'm going to look back because that would be just like even more weird. But YouTube is having its weirdness, as always. Nope, I just look back. I don't see anything. Or maybe you meant not seeing her message because it's not there. Where was I now? Wheels, in some ways, I'm more glad for the pain than a lot of good things, even though it really, well, yes, it's difficult sometimes Jenna, hi AJ. I wanted to say thank you for our session last month. You're very welcome. Had no idea I was BPD because I'm attracted to narcissistic men. Anyway, now I know and taking steps to get into therapy. Well, that's wonderful. And you know where I am if you ever want to talk again. But I'm glad that you're looking after yourself and learning more about yourself because whether, for people with BPD or people on the other side and been hurt in relationships and sometimes people with BPD have a cluster B parent, it's all about getting to know yourself or getting to know yourself better. And Gemini Girl, my ex BPD had not been diagnosed. I highly suspect it from all the research I've read. How can you address this with someone you suspect has BPD? How do you tell them you suspect they have it? Well, actually, it's a little bit of a sideways step to your journey to healing, perhaps from codependency as well as the relationship. That shouldn't even really, well, I shouldn't say shouldn't. It's not really it's not best for you to have that as a goal or a focus in your life right now because it's not your responsibility to tell this person that you suspect they have BPD. It's it's up to you to take care of you and to move forward. And I'm not sure if you said you were no contact, but a lot of people that are no contact, they want to break the contact to try to help the person and tell them they think they have BPD. Seriously, I would rethink that if I were you. That would be my 2 cents worth. You really need to just move on. You don't need to tell them anything. That's still putting them a little bit ahead of you. That's still overgiving, and you're not going to change their trajectory in life by telling them or not telling them. It's not like you're going to tell them and they're going to go, oh, well, I guess I better look into therapy then. So I would really recommend people don't look back and don't reach back and don't hold that other person's responsibility to find out for themselves what they need to find out. And and it's never recommended that people tell people that they suspect they have BPD anyway. So maybe that's not the answer you were looking for, but I would say, Gemini Girl, there's no good way to tell them. It's not your responsibility to tell your ex. You need to keep moving forward and focus on you and leave it to your ex to figure it out or not. That's just my advice. I mean, you'll do whatever you choose to do, but think of yourself first. Victor, in my real life, I don't talk about this because none of my friends want to hear this, and also I don't like feeling like a victim. I've never dealt with my emotions much, just moved on and focused on career and fitness. Yes, that would be what I was referring to, Victor, about the difference between being a human doing and actually being you, Victor, the human being, right? And I understand it's really hard to find people that understand if they haven't been through it to talk to about it, and maybe you feel like some shame there still, and there's something, that would probably be something that intersects with a shame wound from childhood. But and it's good that you're dealing with your emotions now because men often don't learn a lot about that, right? Or maybe don't do that for a period of time in their lives. And I think the other thing I just want to say too, Victor, is especially for men, um, trying to talk to buddies, friends, maybe relatives that are male, and I'm not saying that's maybe only, yeah, but a lot of men out there super don't understand when a man is working on healing and feeling his feelings. And I'm not trying to in any way say anything stereotypically negative toward men, but that's just what a lot of clients of mine are dealing with, that a lot of men don't deal with their feelings. And so that's the way they've been raised, and that's not a very helpful thing for men. Yeah, well, Roller Girl, that's because there was something about, yeah, Deb was having I don't know, it's a technical issue that I would have no idea why that's happening. Victor, it's been nice to voice these things out and feel accepted. Oh, I'm really glad. I'm really glad. And you said, thanks to everybody. I do try super hard in life and will get on eventually. This is already helping me grow. I'm really glad because that's what these live streams and everything here is about. And Wheels, I was in a similar boat a few years ago. Um, you said to Victor, I poured every ounce of myself into academics and anything else that people would look at positively, I think you meant. I spend too much time being a human doing. Yes, exactly. Deb, I rewrote but can't seem to send this as well. One more try and another time. Otherwise, thanks for all I have learned here tonight. Well, you're welcome, Deb. And I wonder if what is happening is there's a character limit. I don't know if it's 200 characters or something. So if you're writing something long, maybe write part of it and then hit send, and then the second part of it. Maybe try that. I'm just guessing. I don't know if that's what the issue is. And then Will said, I totally fell apart, dropped out of college, and lost a lot of things that I felt gave me worth. I got all my worth from the outside. But once I lost all that, I had to find it within. Ah, wise words, Wheels. And you stayed true to your process there, and that's what happens for a lot of people, just as you just described. Yeah, thank you, Elle. I just thought of that too. You said to Deb it's possible that her message exceeded 200 max allowed characters. Victor, I have to commute an hour to work tomorrow, so I gotta go soon. But I feel better now. I'm really glad, Victor. I really do, you said. Maybe I just need to talk about this sometime since I never do. Yeah, well, and Victor, I'm not here to be a walk-in or sit-in commercial, but I'm out here if you'd ever like to book a session and talk about it as well, because lots of people do that because that's very helpful for them. It's not always a case like I'm not the one sitting with the magical beans of answers, but it really helps people to talk. So just a reminder, if you ever wanted to do that, I'm out here. And Gemini Girl, kind of my thoughts. I know me telling him wouldn't do any good. Thank you. Bless you for sharing all of your wisdom. It's important to share. Glad to see helping so many. Well, thank you, Gemini Girl. And people here help each other and support each other. And then the whole idea of these live streams and why I'm trying to make them a little more, staying semi on topic or whatever, but flowing with it, is because when people watch them back, I've heard from so many people that they're up one night, they're going through a hard time, they can't sleep. They end up turning on one of the live streams, and well, some people just say they like my voice, it's soothing, and then they can fall asleep. That's cool too, or they get a sense of company. So, but in many ways, what people share here on the live streams on the channel helps others as well, and so I'm always very grateful to people who participate, whether that's asking questions, supporting each other, etc., because you're helping others as well. So just remember that, guys. And Victor, that's awesome to Wheels. Yes, I look forward to getting that far in my journey. I have so much motivation from this to prove myself that I am worth it and deserve real love. Yes, right on, Victor. And you are worth it and you do deserve real love. And so, yes, you just have to keep working on nurturing that and fostering those positive beliefs about yourself inside of yourself as you get to know yourself better. Deb, yes, thank you. I'm sure it is the word count, and I can send these other messages. Cool. And Victor said, I deserve what I give to others back in return, especially if I'm in a relationship with someone. Well, yes, that's the mutuality and reciprocity. It does not exist with people with BPD or untreated for sure, and they'd have to be really super treated to almost recovered for that. And another way to frame that too, Victor, is where to go. That you could say to yourself right now or anytime, or write it down, maybe put a piece of paper on the fridge or something while you see it. I deserve so much. I deserve to love myself as much as I've tried to give love to anyone else. Because not only do you deserve another person's love back in return, or the love of friends, etc., but you deserve to love yourself first and foremostly. You deserve a ton of love from you. So that would be developing that nurturing inner parent part of yourself to nurture yourself and your wounded inner child. So you deserve that much love to give to yourself first and foremostly. And Deb, my daughter is an untreated BPD. She has revolved her life around a very, yes, and controlling, I'm just watching out for AI here, sorry, and cruel man. I'm so sorry to hear that. She has been living with him for 6 months and believes she is nothing without him. I'm really sorry to hear that. Because, of course, she needs therapy also, right? But maybe she's really resistant to that. It's really, really, really so difficult and painful. Wheels, the whole situation majorly sucked, and I still feel like crap about it sometimes, but I'm glad it happened in more ways than not. And I've finally been able to start college again as of this week with more balance. Well, that's wonderful. And, the more balance that people have is going to help in the long run as well, with anything people go on to do. Well, thank you for that, Wheels. I was just about to hit that button. Deb said one of her main coping mechanisms, well, yes, that is unfortunately a maladaptive, unhealthy coping mechanism, is looking for attention from males online. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous too. These encounters can go to real life. This perpetuates this man, and yes, the way she's treating her. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Um, yeah, and it's really hard when you're the parent of an adult child with BPD because you can't rescue her either. It's like nobody can rescue anybody with BPD, and that's got to be so incredibly painful. Victor, that's great. Happy for you. It's always nice to see people get over their traumas the right way. Keep on trucking to wheels. Yes, and I think it's so compelling, for parents of adult children, but Um, can't save or rescue them either. They have to find their own way. Victor said, bye, everyone. When I'm better financially, I'll definitely book a session. I'm a better speaker than I am typer on this phone. I'll look forward to that, Victor. And you say good night, peeps. So you take really good care, Victor, and hope to see you again on a live stream. And I'm glad this was helpful for you. Um, so yeah, I think um, don't have too much more to say, but I'm just waiting to see if Deb has something else to type. To add in. And I hope people will really think about mindfulness in the moment to whatever your greatest challenge is. Like for Gemini Girl, how to not tell him that he has BPD. Because not your job, not your responsibility. You can't rescue, can't fix, not going to make a difference. He needs to figure it out and find it out in his own time or not. And that's where you can have a healthy boundary for yourself. Um, and it's not easy. And Deb said, very emotionally dysregulated, and I believe she's not able to protect herself. Well, yes, obviously she isn't because she's in repetition cycles of something that maybe happened in her childhood. I don't know. And yes, it's breaking your heart. Um, well, it's harder for moms. Like it's hard for everybody, but it is harder for moms. And you said you need to focus on you. That's right. But is there anything in capital letters? Yes, I can do to support her in a healthy manner. Actually, no. And the healthiest thing you can do is detach with love, because your mom is different than significant other relationships. Detach with love, and you know, maybe just distance yourself a little. She's doing what she's. Pray for her if you're inclined to. And you have to wait for her to hit her bottom. And, if she comes to you and she wants help or support and she's wanting to change something, then maybe you can try to help her with getting it, but she should be able to get therapy on her own. But I'm really sorry to say there isn't anything. The best gift you can give her right now, which is heart wrenching and almost impossible for a lot of moms to do, is detach with love, back off, take care of yourself. I don't mean go no contact, just take care of yourself and leave her to, unfortunately, what she's going to have to learn about what is going on one way or the other. And hopefully she will hit a bottom that allows her to want to change. And Will said, I'm taking on a much smaller course load this time, being mindful of my mental health. Very good. I don't expect myself to get perfect grades, but I'm doing my best to make that progress. Ah, you're not as afraid. That's wonderful. That just speaks to how much you've grown. And Palms, is it normal is it normal BPD behavior to lie about having, let's say, cancer or being pregnant to try and lock you down to them even more? I wouldn't call it normal, but I would say not all people with BPD do that, but it's all too common, yes. It's the height of manipulation, and that is not something that, whether they know it or not, I mean, that's very manipulative, yes. So the lying and the manipulating, unlike sometimes when they can be manipulating and not know what they're doing, in this case, they know what they're doing. And so what you have to do is detach, and disengage and not let that hold you there, not bite that hook, so to speak. Spartan, you're amazing. Please email me with the info on how to get involved with these sessions regularly. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Do I have your email? Maybe you could email me. You can go to ajmahari.ca/contact. And if you email me, then I can give you more information. Or you can just go to ajmahari.ca and then click on the Sessions with AJ link, and you'll find out more there as well. And that website and others, well, it's right on the screen, and it's also always under my videos. Deb, I'm afraid. Well, yes, I know, and that is a horrible thing to have to be afraid of. And what can I say to that? I can only imagine your pain. I feel for you, but there isn't anything you can do to stop that if that's in fact what might occur. But I would encourage you to focus on taking good care of yourself, any other children you might have, the rest of your life, knowing that, pray for her or have people, or whatever your spiritual practice might be. And this is like where I would say in my reference, but you might change it for yourself. This is where you have to let go and let God, or let go and let the universe, because it's unfortunately up to somebody who's really lost, your daughter. It's up to her now, and there's nothing you can do. And I really hate to have to say that, because I just feel so much for you, and I wish there was something more effective I could say. And Roller Girl, quote, the veil is lifted, unquote. You see how you have grown and changed, quote, progress, not perfection, unquote. Absolutely. It's never about perfection in life, but progress, personal growth, and getting to know yourself in a much more whole way, right? And being one's own best friend so that you can be independent. And I'm not just saying you, Roller Girl, but everyone, to be independent, to be nurturing to yourself, kind to yourself, your own best friend. Doesn't mean you want to be an island, right? But when people with BPD go through this process of recovery and healing to know themselves in a different way, or people with codependency and after these relationships, sometimes a lot of people got to fall by the wayside because they're not healthy enough as you progress. But knowing yourself and working toward that is the progress, is the growth, and the center of the progress, the growth and the change. And of course, it's, anybody who's feeling or inclined to be perfectionistic needs to really work hard to sort of let that go, because there is no perfect in the human condition. Palms, thank you. I detached. It is now my ex, and I had to go no contact. She says she's trying to ruin my life by spreading false rumors and have me kicked out of my apartment. I'm so sorry to hear that. Hopefully, she won't be successful with that. But when they do that, you have to not engage that, as difficult as that is. And you may or may not be able to explain to the people in charge where the apartment you live in. You may or may not be able to explain, or hopefully you won't have to explain, because hopefully they know that you're responsible, etc. But yeah, this happens for a lot of people too, and I'm so sorry to hear that's happening for you. Because but you have to be really stoic in the sense of not engaging her, because any engagement in her direction will only give her that negative payoff reward for what she's doing that is abysmal and abhorrent. Wheels, I used to be really afraid of failure and even minor mistakes, but failing at things is a lesson learned. Well, yeah, Wheels, failure, is success turned, success is failure turned inside out. I don't want to get that backwards. You said I still have quite a bit of anxiety, but it's not nearly to the level it used to be. Well, yeah, and it sounds like, Wheels, to quote Brene Brown, you're not only working hard, but you're daring greatly. And is there a better time in anyone's life today and what's going on in the world to just grab it by the tail and do the work and dare greatly? And you're living proof here, Wheels, for people to get inspiration from, that when people buckle down in their processes, making so much progress, and yes, you have to go through pain to do that. So yeah, it's really important to keep doing that. And that's, again, people have to unlearn a lot of things to learn new things. So have to unlearn that narrative, that belief that pain is bad and horrible, and I can't feel it, I can't cope with it, and embrace it and learn how to cope with it. So I'm just going to put a link in here for, um, hang on. That's where people can contact me if you're interested in sessions and Spartan, and I can give you more information from there. And maybe Victor when the time comes, or anybody else in the meantime, if you resonate with me. So, um, yeah, I think pretty much that, a lot of people shared a lot of important things here and asked some really good questions and supported each other. And I've said about all that I have to say for tonight. And just remember that, I think I'll get your comment in a second, Deb. I just want to say that, philosophy and to be philosophical and to adapt your own personal philosophy, which includes knowing your ethics and your morals and your values, etc. So you can be the best you that you're getting to know better. And then that will help you building emotional intelligence also as to how you want to go forward. You will be behaving more, as people often do, but more congruently to who you really are, and with self-worth and self-esteem leading the way. And Deb said, thank you for the piece about possibility of replaying childhood scenario. Had not considered this. I've been through DBT, etc., to focus on self. She is so unpredictable, high risk. I'm losing hope. Well, and for that, I would say, Deb, practice a lot of mindfulness to the moment and a lot of radical acceptance, because I realize that my words right now to what you're most afraid of, which is a possibility, they just feel so inadequate. But I hope you know the spirit and feeling behind them. I really care, and I'm really so sorry that you have to deal with all that. And so sorry for all your daughter is dealing with and going through, and that she is in a cycle of tremendous self-harm in what she's doing. And we have to just hope that, if she starts to go to bottom, that maybe God can catch her just before she hits the bottom, and that she will want to get help, because until and unless they want to get the help, nobody can make them do it. And Will said, I'm going to be everything the Foo says, family of origin. Yes, I can't be. Good for you. I love your determination. That's great. Palms, thank you. I unfortunately told her that it was yes. Well, I don't know, but everybody has their own feeling about their behavior. And she blocked you. She used to use people around me to check on me. Why is this? Well, because she didn't have any trust, but it's not about you. It's about that she had fear of abandonment, and she was probably thinking like you'd cheat on her. I don't know, maybe I don't know if she cheated on you, but it's just projected out fear. And you said basic. Oh, I see. So right now, you mean since you've been an ex? Well, yes. Um, that is stalking actually through friends. And so if that continues, that's something that you might want to report to your local police and start documenting. And then you said, I've told about her bad behavior to the landlord, and he's on my side fortunately and believes me. Well, that's good. But the other thing is if she's using other people to check on you and you can document that, see them, take a picture of them, whatever, this person sounds like they're a tad on the edge of a little more severely impacted, and you might have to get the police involved at some point. Roller Girl, like a new pair of running shoes, you do the work, feel the feels, you'll forget about the old running shoes in the closet. Well, you'll, yeah, forget about them and you'll just realize they no longer have any utility and that they're futility, right? And maybe that's one way to put it in sort of a healing kind of context as well. But not that you're not there, yes. But in healing, we don't absolutely forget, but we just realize the futility of the focus. And you are the old shoes one day and you'll realize you've moved on. Yes, I like that. Um, yeah, you can definitely make it, Wheels. Yeah, that's really good. Um, yeah, great support for each other. So yeah, with that, I will get going now and look forward to many more live streams. And I hope that people get used to this or like this, or if you have other ideas for me, you can always email me at ajmahar.ca/contact and give me suggestions, etc. But hopefully the information is helpful at the beginning of the stream, and then we can sort of go from there. And maybe, depending on the topic, in the future, you might want to talk more about the topic. It's hard to say because I can't know what's going to be most relevant for most people on any given day. And Deb said, "Thank you, AJ. I'm going to take the night to consider a private session with you. She is home from another country because of, yes, that. And I am, um, sorry, um, and I'm just beginning to see the extent of how broken she is. Yeah, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. So, yeah, everybody take care. And thanks for being here, Wheels, for what you share, what you add, how you support people, and supporting me by being a moderator. I super appreciate it. Everybody take care now. It's been a pleasure as always. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please remember, please do that. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Please support the channel and help it to grow. For those that resonate with me and can benefit from the live streams and all you people sharing and helping and whatever I do in video. Everybody take care.